Welcome to Kopla Gel, the first of a series of podcasts that the Turkish Association for Energy Economics is doing in collaboration with SOCAR Turkey. So I would like to express my gratitude to SOCAR Turkey, our institutional member, for opening up their studio for this series. The Turkish Association for Energy Economics is the first NGO accredited for the COP meetings in the category of research institutions. As such, we're going to have a dedicated event in Antalya in November, and this is a preparatory podcast series. And the first guest is Ms. Cornelia Meyer. Cornelia Meyer, Dr. Cornelia Meyer. She is the CEO of Meyer Resources, and I would like to first invite you to introduce yourself.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Gürkan, and thank you very much also to the Turkish Association of Energy Economists for having me on this podcast, and obviously also thank you for SOCAR Turkey for making this all happen. I'm Cornelia Meyer. I'm an economist, and I'm a sort of commodity analyst as well, and I founded about 10 years ago Meyer Resources, and I do macroeconomic and energy policy advisory, and I also am the chief economist at a hedge fund called LBV Asset Management.
Thank you very much, Cornelia. So the first topic we're going to chat about is related to the Strait of Hormuz and the oil crisis that we're going through right now, which brings alternative energy routes for energy sustainability into the spotlight. So Middle East energy exporters are in desperate need of alternative routes to bypass the Strait of Hormuz due to rising security risks, of course. And one of these exporters, actually, whose primary export route is the Strait of Hormuz, has decided to leave OPEC, United Arab Emirates. OPEC's third largest producer, which holds the second largest spare capacity. So this move shows that we are undergoing actually a historical time with essential changes going on. So what can we expect in the foreseeable future with respect to pipelines and routes that can come up as an alternative to the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, first of all, on the thank you for the question, and on the UAE leaving OPEC, which I personally think is very regrettable, because OPEC is an organization with the mandate to keep the world economy adequately supplied with petroleum. And they have done a really fine job, especially since they've also OPEC Plus, in terms of always leveling out. So we never had much too little oil or much too much oil. I would like to have their highlight what they have done during COVID. If it hadn't been for OPEC cutting 10 million barrels a day, oil markets would have imploded. So whether you're a producer or whether you're a consumer, you should be very grateful to OPEC, because wild oscillations of fluctuations of oil price don't help you. As a producer, you need to have certainty in terms of investment, right? It's the demand side. And as a consumer, let's say you're an airline, you can't go from 30% kerosene of operating costs to 70% and then back up and down and up and down. So, and you see now that OPEC, because so much of its capacity is trapped behind the Strait of Hormuz, can't really play that role. But that stabilizing function was important. That's the first thing. Second thing, the UAE leaving OPEC has been sort of a long time coming. it may have happened a little bit faster. You see that they had invested many billions, hundreds of billions, into 150 billion or so into the upstream capabilities, and because of the quota system, because of the management of OPEC, they couldn't really monetize it. So they were not happy about that.
But still, when the Hormuz is closed, they still not be able to monetize it right now.
They are looking forward to when it's open again to monetizing it, and also to upping their capacity. About half of their production, about 1.5 million barrels a day, can go from the Abu Dhabi Fujairah pipeline. So they're looking to upgrade that pipeline to get more through it. So they just monetize, and you've seen they said we want more investment, we want to up our production capacity, and so that's behind it. But it's not the end of OPEC. There's been ever since OPEC was founded in 1960, periodically people said it's the end of OPEC. OPEC and OPEC Plus is very important in terms of the management of oil markets. I'm a fan, if you hadn't noticed.
Oh yeah, that's wonderful. I agree. I mean, you need to balance the volatility and make markets secure. It's supply security as well as demand security.
And there's another thing, OPEC can do that because most of the producers are state-owned or majority state-owned, so they have that lever. If you look at the US, currently the largest producer, but these are all private companies. So if you say we need spare capacity, Exxon, Shell, they won't do spare capacity because their shareholders will say, so you've made this investment and it's just lying there, it's just sitting there, it's not giving us returns. So the only people who can really do this are people with majority state-owned oil companies and sensible governments.
You mentioned UAE is going to upgrade its existing pipeline, but there are no plans, or are there any plans you're aware of new routes and pipelines in the region?
Well, I think what we have that, and you have to hand it to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They did the east to west pipeline, which has a capacity of 7 million barrels a day. They did that during the Iran-Iraq war in the 1980s. They were very far-sighted. The Strait of Hormuz had never closed. They were very far-sighted in doing that. That was brilliant. So, I'm sure they will upgrade that as well. I mean, that's 2 million are for the refineries near Yanbu, and 5 million barrels a day are crude for going out. So what you will see, I think, is more routes going to the west coast of the Arabian Peninsula, which is mainly KSA, obviously. Yeah. And so you will probably see other countries feeding into that. The Kuwaits, the Qatars, whatever, feeding into that. The problem you have with the Strait of Hormuz, it's not just about oil, it's about LNG. There's not pipeline. It's about fertilizer. My big thing is fertilizer. 30% of nitrogen-based fertilizer, and gas essentially becomes fertilizer, comes from the other side of the Strait of Hormuz. It's about aluminium, it's very energy intensive. It's about petrochemicals. So what I can also foresee is that there will be more railways, and the KSA has been very good in sort of building its railway capacity, and I can see other Gulf countries linking into that system and getting things to the other side. So you can go to the Arabian Gulf, or you can go to the Red Sea.
You've mentioned LNG, so I want to switch to natural gas, because Turkey has been positioning itself as a regional energy hub, especially for natural gas, because there are all the supply sources around Turkey, and then it's European country, located next to the European Union. So the demand side is there, right in the middle. Do you see an emerging role for Turkey as a gas hub?
Absolutely. Turkey has been working as a gas hub. And you see, the whole the Central Asian gas and also Central Asian oil. May I remind you of the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline?
Yes.
Ceyhan is in Turkey. I actually, when I was at Citibank, I helped finance that pipeline. So that's I go way back in this. But you look at it. It is a hub. It is Turkey is the transit route from east to west and from north to south. And in as much it has a huge role to play.
Yes. So I'm going to switch to the low carbon energy transition. So we're getting to COP somehow. And Turkey's energy transition narrative is essentially strategy to enhance energy security, reduce dependence on imported fossil fuels, and meet the net emission target. And 2053 is Turkey's net emission target through accelerated renewable energy investments, through efficiency improvements, through nuclear power generation, which is coming up as well. But the reality is currently a third of power generation in Turkey comes from coal and a quarter from natural gas. So it's a near-term phase-out of fossil fuels is impossible.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's impossible. And we need to see when we have renewables, when we have wind, when we have solar. Today it's raining, there's no solar. The wind is not always blowing, so you need those base loaders. And these base loaders also need flexibility. So gas is very good as a base loader because you can switch it on and off quite easily, which nuclear is difficult because it's just one load. So it's very important. And I always say the enemy is not oil, gas or coal. It's not the fossil fuel. The enemy is the CO2. So let us address the enemy. And so there are CO2 abatement technologies, namely carbon capture, utilization and storage. So we should, yes, by all means, let's invest in all of these things, but let's not forget CCUS, please.
Exactly. So with CCUS, you can also have coal as a clean energy source. And you can have actually, if you have the U, if there's CCS, then it's just carbon capture and storage. If you have the U, it's amazing what you can. Aramco has done a lot of work on this. It's amazing what you can get building materials out of it. You can actually make that turn that carbon into something very productive. We have a biorefinery on campus at Boğaziçi University.
Oh, wonderful.
It's a biorefinery that uses algae as an input. And there, one of the current ongoing projects is to capture the carbon and use it to grow up the algae. So CCU,
cool.
Yes.
So the U,
yeah,
the U in there.
The U is important. Yeah, with the U, the economics becomes kind of possible. Yeah, but it's a smart energy transition that we needs to be planned for. But for this energy transition, at the end, financing is the most important thing. Without finance, you cannot proceed. Now, at COP29 in Baku, there was this new climate finance goal, at least 300 billion per year by 2035 for developing countries, and with the aim to scale this up to $1.3 trillion with the private sector involvement. Do you see this possible? Do you see this coming up? I mean, we had this at the Middle East Central Asia conference, IAEE conference, last year, where we met. What do you think about the climate finance issue?
All I can say is, inshallah, we will be getting there, but it's really difficult, and I'm very unhappy with the sort of the global north, who dictates, gives the dictate on, obviously we all want we all want clean air, we all want our children and children's children to have a good life and a healthy life. but they dictate the terms and they come up with these great schemes, and it used to be 100 billion a year, and then they don't live up to it. So I think, I think if you want to dictate the terms, you do need to come up with the funding. Because I look at many, but Turkey is not a poor country, but I look at the really poor countries. If I'm Chad, if I'm Niger, if I'm Burkina Faso, how on earth do you expect me to do something if you don't help me finance it?
Yes. So the idea was that came up at the IAE Mecca conference, a regional energy merchant bank with a sustainable mission. And our colleagues are still working on that to follow up at the upcoming COP conference in Antalya this November. So would you consider this as an effective way to facilitate climate finance?
It can be effective. I mean, a regional, it's good to have, and I like everything that South-South cooperation, I'm bought in anyhow. I like the idea, but I also think we need to have these mechanisms from the countries that dictate, right? We need to have that. We need to have the mechanisms from the OECD countries, from the, Turkey is an OECD country, but from the very developed OECD countries, they need to come up with their mechanisms, and it probably needs to be backed by the state as well. Yeah. I think that's, you won't get it. I'm very optimistic on a regional thing, because you will get the backing of the various governments. I'm sure if you do it regionally, you will get the backing. But we need to stop doing big announcements of, yes, we will finance for other countries, and then not do it. That's really counterproductive.
That's right. The collaboration is the precondition to make it happen, especially on the developed countries.
Yeah, absolutely, and we need to, and I really like the idea of a sort of South-South cooperation thing. But you might want, for that bank, you might want stopgap, risk insurance or something to make the financing easier. So one needs to, you need to get the Swiss Re's or whatever in there, the Munich Re's to help with that. So it really, this is a huge, this energy transition is huge. And we need to, it takes everybody to help. But on the energy transition, if you allow me, there's one thing, I recently did an article for the Petroleum Economist, and I looked at how much fossil fuels we had in the energy mix, the global energy mix, in 1974, before the first oil crisis, and that was 80%. And then I looked at where it was in 2024. It was just below 80%. So we will have, the world population has more than doubled in the meantime, and we'll have 2 billion people more on planet Earth by 2050. So in order to, and we currently already have more than 1 billion in energy poverty, in order to allow everybody a decent life, we will need every ray of sun, every burst of wind, and every molecule to get there.
That's right. And even if e-mobility takes over in transport, even then we're going to still need a lot of oil, essentially due to petrochemicals. Yeah.
But and even if, and one of the things I think we have to be careful with is grid and grid stability, because we tend to keep on more and more and more on the grid, and now we also have hyperscalers and all sorts of things. So that electricity doesn't come from the socket. It comes from a power plant. So we need to produce enough power to sustain that huge burst in electricity consumption.
Exactly, and that's again investment into the grid.
This is a very expensive exercise, and somebody's got to pay the piper.
Exactly. So we're gonna take up this very exciting discussion in Antalya at the end of the year. I really much enjoyed this conversation, and once again, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Professor Gürkan, for having me, and also thank you obviously to Sokar Türkiye for enabling us to do this.
Yes, thank you very much.